Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. We'll stay in baseball, going up a level to the Atlanta Braves. Mark, one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the year is trying to get this team from an offensive and defensive standpoint to kind of really play together. One of the teams that was favored to make a deep run in the playoffs. We didn't see that early. Bats really came alive, though, against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Everybody's going to take a look at that game where they scored 20 runs. But this is an overall really, really good performance, something they can hang their hat on after winning 3 of 4 against the Pirates.
Yeah, I think you go back to the series against the Mets after they lost the first 2 games to a really depleted Mets team.
Right.
And then they blow that 3-1 lead going into the 8th inning, trailing against the Mets, and they're able to rally to win that game. And how else would they win it with an Acuna walk-off home run first against the Mets? You know, it was kind of a good way for them to end that series, even though most expected them to win at least 2 out of 3 in that series. When you look at the fact that the Mets pitched their bullpens for basically all series. They really didn't throw anybody out there outside of Taijuan Walker the first game, and he left with an injury. So for the Mets, you looked at that and say, well, they can compete with the Braves. But I think on a bigger level for the Mets, mentally, they're still not over that block. The Braves can still know that they have that edge over them. Kind of like when push comes to shove. You didn't sweep us. You didn't get the final nail in, which really would have helped the Mets, I believe, mentally. But they weren't able to do that. Now, again, they were playing, with so many men short. So you got to understand and put that into perspective. But I think that led Atlanta going into the weekend. Their bullpen has been abysmal. They have the most bullpen losses amongst any team in baseball. That's been a big reason why they haven't had more consistent success. After they lose the game on Thursday, 6-4, the Pirates, they kind of just took out all their frustrations on Pittsburgh, outscoring them 33-3 and out-homering them. I had 7 home runs in one game. I think they had 13 over the 3 games combined. If you look at, they have now homered in 16 straight games, having hit 34 home runs in the last 16 games. Albies is kind of, welcome back. Cunha's leads the majors with 15 homers. Austin Riley has been kind of what Ozuna was last year, and Donaldson was the year before, and Markakis the year before that. It's like every year they get a guy, they find a guy. I don't know where they find him from. They pull him out from somewhere in Atlanta, and this guy went to putting up huge numbers. So I think that offensively, they're the most talented team in that division. Now it seems like they're the most healthy. I mean, when you look at a couple weeks ago after Acuna got hurt, Albies was kind of on the mend. You didn't know what you were going to get out of him. Inciarte has been hurt kind of all year. Pache has been a disaster. When he has played, he's been awful. So they haven't really counted on him. But Acuna's carried them. And Austin Riley has really carried them the last 10, 12 games. He has been outstanding. That's the stuff I don't like, though. Ozuna with the selfies, please. Come on.
It's been a signature.
I know, but I mean, really, do you really need to do that? I mean, it's like we're in May. You know, can you hold the selfies off to maybe the playoffs at least? I don't know. That bothers me. And then there's another one of my favorites. Chipper Jones.
23-24 overall is their record. Is this something that the Braves fans can kind of hang their hat on as they move forward? That hey, whenever we do need to have this offensive surge, we at least got the talent to make it happen. There are some teams that obviously don't. The team like the White Sox, they do. They feel like they have it. Do you think the Braves are in the same category?
Absolutely. Look, I thought the Braves were the best team in the division all year. I mean, they're to me, they have the best player in the division, which is Acuna by far. This guy is just. I mean, I don't really even think he's hit his top level yet. I think he's just kind of toying with it, trying to see how good he can be. And he's so good, it's ridiculous. Riley's a guy that I really like. He's a big boy, and he just hits. If you look at batting average balls in play, it's like hitting over 700 when he puts the ball in play. So he's really doing a great job of late. And then throughout the lineup, they just have lineup depth, even going all the way down to Swanson. who's hitting for power this year. Not really doing much else. The Braves don't really hit for a high average. But if you look at, they lead the major leagues with 78 home runs. They're 5th in the majors in runs scored. They're 3rd in the National League with runs scored. And they're also 3rd in the majors in OPS. So they're definitely smashing the ball. They just don't hit for a very high average. Overall, if you look at their numbers, they're very pedestrian as far as batting average.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the in-game series really quickly about what we saw over the last 4 games. Braves winning 3 of those games. And as you saw, the line of demarcation between Game 1 and Games 2 and 3, very, very wide. And as you mentioned, the bats really did come alive, especially with the home runs.
Yeah, I mean, look. 33 runs, 37 hits, 13 home runs.
33 to 3 in 3 games, and those 13 homers. I mean, obviously you can't just look at one game and kind of pinpoint that, but I mean, the Pirates really played well in Game 1. It was all Braves after that. We'll take a look at 3 individual players that you've highlighted in different kind of segments of their game. First player we'll look at is Ozzie Albies over his last 7 games, and you had a pretty good differentiation about what he's done in his last 3 as opposed to his first 4.
Yeah, well, starting off that series last week against the Mets, Albies was a non-factor, as were most of the Braves. Braves really did not hit a batter Mets bullpen, but they really took out their frustrations on the Pirates, which really the Pirates, I mean, they're not one of the better teams in the Central or in the National League, but they weren't that bad. I mean, the Braves really let them have it. And Albies is kind of figuring out a little bit as he gets healthier. This is a guy that has unlimited potential. Had over 189 hits back in 2019. He's a great fielder, and he's a big part of the future. Him and Acuna both got signed to extensions early on before they could reach out where they would be free agents. So this guy is there to stay. 6 RBIs, 7 runs, 3 home runs in those last 3 games, as opposed to not getting. I only had 1 walk in those first 4 games, only 1 time on base. So it's for him that was really kind of a little bit of a coming out party.
Exactly. A guy that you mentioned just a minute ago, who we'll look at next, Austin Riley, who's had a phenomenal run over not just the Pirates series, but over the last 8 games, and you kind of feeling a resurgence there with Riley's production. Yeah,
I mean, he's the numbers that he's put up has been absolutely filthy. He's hitting over 300. He has a ridiculous high OPS. Look, it's 1.83 OPS over his last 8 games. 6 home runs, 10 runs, 11 RBIs, and you could even take this back a little further with him to where his numbers, space out since the middle or the kind of like the 18th, 19th of April. He's really stepped up offensively where they needed him to, because they had a lot of their other players struggling who aren't struggling now. But when the Braves weren't hitting home runs early and when they were lacking, if you go back to when they had that back-to-back shutouts against Arizona, when they got shut out in back-to-back games of a doubleheader, the Braves' offense has averaged 5.5 runs per game, and they've had an OPS of 794. And that was, compared to 4.3 runs per game before that.
Exactly.
So that's when they really started to take off.
No doubt. And that's 14 of 28 from the plate. Just an incredible start there for Austin Riley at the plate. Meanwhile, the last guy we'll look at is the pitcher, Max Fried, and he's a guy that we've kind of diagnosed throughout the course of the year, and he seemed to have found his groove on the mound as well.
Yeah, when I watch this guy pitch, he's just got nasty stuff. I mean, I wonder how guys get hits off him, because his ball moves so much. We highlighted earlier in the year how when teams were hitting him, like that one game that Duvall got a couple big hits off him, he was hanging his breaking ball and putting it up in the zone. He's done a lot better job now in the last 4 starts of keeping the pitches down and able to also have much better whip levels. 2.54 whip, walks, hits, and his pitch is pretty bad. He's gotten that down to 1 now, and his pitches he's locating his pitches much better.
Exactly, and you see the opponent's batting average against him down to a shivering cold 183 here, .183 over the last few. So he's having a really nice run here. We'll see if he can keep that going as the summer continues. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, has Julio Jones played his last game as an Atlanta Falcon? The former Bama wide receiver had a very interesting comment today. We'll break it down coming up next.